In February of this year, Rus Russell, a 48-year-old small business owner from Little Rock, announced he would seek the Democratic nomination for Arkansas governor in 2022. He and I caught up recently to find out more about how his campaign is going. Well, tell me, why did you jump in this race, and what has been some of the reaction you've received since you made your announcement in February?
The reasons that I jumped in, probably too long to list within the time frame we've got. Mainly just a systemic failure of leadership within our state to actually stand up for the people and to take into consideration compassion when passing laws and governing. And so far, the reaction that I've had, which brief aside, we did hit our 100th day of the campaign on April 30th, so we passed that mile mark. The reception has actually been almost universally positive. A lot, especially the younger voters, have been very excited and very enthusiastic. Some of the older ones are surprised to hear someone that's outspoken, but are also very receptive and happy to hear someone willing to get out there and speak the truth and not worry about it. So.
I know you'll have a lot of goals and you have a lot of campaign issues that you are on your website there. Tell me maybe the top two or three things you would hope to accomplish if you were elected governor.
Um, Top easy is education reform. We actually have to take a look at our budget and reinvest in what we're doing with education, and not simply from a pre-K through 12th grade standpoint, but also in worker re-education as adults, in trade schools, in availability of adult learning. Of course, in the history, we had the No Child Left Behind policy, which unfortunately left a lot of adults behind. So we just really need to look back and reinvest and make sure, because everything else that we have in our society is fundamentally based on the principle of having an educated populace that can engage with the topics and with society as a whole. So the need to provide a solid education, make sure teachers have the resources they need, make sure the students have access to food, have the tools that they need, the paper, pens, whatever it may be. It's really making sure that we've got that in line and that we bring it up, because we rank near or at the bottom in the nation for education, and that should be an embarrassment to us. We've got to fix it.
All right, the state legislature just kind of wrapped up their regular session business. They're in recess. They'll come back later in the year and deal with, I think, tax reform and redistricting, if not a few other things. I don't have a whole 3 days to talk about this, but I will let you talk to me about what you think was the one maybe best thing that they accomplished this legislative session, and what was the one worst thing in your eyes in this session?
Um, if I can get a little bit sideways on it, I actually think that the same answer, both of them have the same answer. Rather than parsing out any individual bill or piece of legislation that got passed, I think that the worst thing that came out of it was seeing the evidence of who our legislators are and what they're pushing forth, the regressive policies, the voter suppression, the denial of rights to women, just in general, the fulmination of the message they were sending to the voting populace and to the rest of the country as who we are. However, I also think that that's possibly the best thing to come out of it, because that has engendered such urgency within those people paying attention for the need to reclaim and get engaged and turn out the vote, boost voter registration totals, and actually get back into society and become engaged with our civic process. So I think that is kind of a double-edged sword, in that it was incredibly traumatic to go through, but hopefully we emerge on the other side as a better and stronger Arkansas.
I don't have to tell you, you're starting from ground zero with political experience in this campaign. And Republicans do have an advantage electorally if you just look at recent election cycles and polling data right now in Arkansas. Maybe explain to me how you think you will win the Democratic nomination, and how, if you did, how would you win in the fall of 2022 in the general election?
Well, I think that honestly, not having that much experience, it's not a matter of not having that much experience politically or being uninformed politically. It's not having a name brand. I don't have name brand recognition, which is different. And that's what our politics have shifted over to. I have the advantage of not having a brand that I have to defend. I can get out there and be outspoken. I can get out there and say, no, This is not fake news. The election wasn't stolen. I can stand, I hate to use the term, I can stand my ground on an issue and say, no, this is where we've drawn the line. This is our value. And I hope that appeals to Democratic voters who have felt left behind or like we aren't fighting hard enough, where we need to actually push forward and have our voice and control that narrative instead of being reactionary. Hopefully that translates into the Democrat. As far as after the primary, and even arguably within the primary, since we have open primaries, I'm really hoping that that reaches out to the disenfranchised and independent voters that we have in our state, because that's honestly the largest untapped block that we have. I've made no secret from the beginning that while, of course, the governorship is the primary goal, simply boosting our voter engagement and voter registration numbers, if I can get those up and not win the primary or anything, I will consider it a win, because the state will then, we will know we have a mandate from the people if we actually get more voters turning out and making their voice heard. And if they turn out and their voices are heard and I'm not the one they pick, I will still feel like I've won, so long as we actually have more engagement within the democracy.